Hello.
Hey Jay, how are you?
I'm doing well. You?
Doing well too. May just be us today.
May. Did you come with topics, things to say, objectives?
Just kind of like I think wanting to still bounce the idea around for consensus on the topic we were discussing in Slack. So it's like if there's a project that we want to target, that's great. I think really my point that I was trying to convey is like ensuring that before you broach the subject, if you have an in with a particular project, like awesome, you can much easier like have the conversation. But if you show up on somebody's doorstep randomly and be like, hey, what do you think about this? I know a number of open source maintainers that are going to be like, they're super friendly, super open, but they're going to be like, this is just one more thing for me to think about, and one more thing on my list.
Yeah.
Is on a list of many.
Yeah. It helps to have a concrete ask. And like, what does that mean to me? Like, what are you asking me to do on, that type of thing. So
yeah, exactly. And I'm not totally sure that we're at that point yet of having that solidified.
Right. I agree. And that's why I haven't pursued it yet. Yeah. Let's see. So how do we get there? I thought some about this and I wondered if, let's see, how did I even get to, like, I want me proposing this to begin with? Internally in Red Hat, we were trying to figure out, like, how are we going to accomplish some goals, like, all right, I think OSCAL is a way to go. All right, how are we going to accomplish these goals with OSCAL? And like trying to work through all those details, and then that's kind of what eventually led me to, I think we need, like, I don't think the language OSCAL goes far enough in prescription for some norms, and like we're liable to run into these issues. So that's how we got there. So now I wondered, as a useful tool to facilitate us in getting somewhere, having dialogue, having constructive disagreement, would it be helpful if I scrubbed some of like our diagrams and stuff like this that we had made internally to try and get ourselves on the same page?
Mhm.
So I've done that. I've like got a Miro diagram. I've scrubbed it, and I feel like let's see. I feel like I should share that. How do I? There we go. I feel like I can share that. I think if you open that, you will automatically be able to pop in. Did that work?
Yeah, it looks like I just need to sign in order to join.
There you are.
Yep. All right.
Okay. Cool. Okay. So so if the only thing that comes out of this diagram is you hate it, but it allows us to then like articulate like, well, I don't like it because of this, and I think it should work. Then it's serving its purpose to me. Its purpose is not for me to sell this; it's to advance our ability, use it as a tool to advance our ability to really talk and get kind of concrete more about this, so that then we can we go involve some other people that haven't kind of gotten here on their own in their head. So that's my desire to share this. So
Yeah.
So let's see. Would it help if I kind of like walked through it as opposed to just throw this at you and expect you to yeah, that totally makes sense. I can happy to share my screen and kind of try and walk through it. Normally, this is Jen Power made this, so I want to not like take credit for her work, and she has another commitment today and couldn't join, but she has a really crisp presentation on this, so I will not do her justice on this, but I'll do my best.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to just share the things that you think are pertinent to tell the story.
Yep.
Like, that sounds great.
Okay. So we usually start off up here and kind of just talk generally about some roles. And you might notice like there's this odd box over here on the side. It's like a tab. It says project on it. We found internally we were able to apply this to a bunch of different activities that happen. But here I just kind of slimmed it down to like how would we apply this to how could an open source project participate in this? So so there's only that one tab left over there. As we go through this, if we like this type of thing, we may decide, oh yeah, there are other places. How would that work? And if not, it's a vestigial tale and feel free to ignore it. So let's see. We have compliance control authors, and you can think of this like a regulator. So where the people that create and maintain PCI or NIST 853 type of thing. Yep. Yeah, let's go with NIST 853 for a moment. And then so that can lead to a STIG then. And so now we want to like get more detailed, and we have component and technical policy authors, and this becomes like kind of part of the this like a STIG view
Mhm.
on things right here. So like, how is that actually going to get applied for this specific project, product, software, what have you? And then you could take that further with, say, OpenSCAP, and you get or Ansible or what have anything you want, and you're going to say, well, now I'm going to, for some of those things, I'm going to, because you can't automate everything. For some of those things, I'm going to automate checks. Maybe even I will automate remediation. And then you end up with like the system owners. This is like actually, continuing with like a STIG type of thing. So let's say this is a Air Force project, and they're looking to get an ATO, and those system owners there, then, they have to do all the things to collect the evidence, and maybe then your, internally you have your security officer, and that's what, is going on down here with the control assessor and the CISO, authorizing official. So
Yeah.
that's just kind of the roles at play, high level. And then if we talk about a workflow through OSCAL, and we have these different panels down here. We broke it up, for with the layers of OSCAL and how this would really work. So the control layer is, again, going to be like, these are the regulators, and some regulators currently produce OSCAL, publish their standards in OSCAL. Some do not, like PCI, for example, doesn't. But it doesn't mean that somebody else couldn't come along and say, well, even though they don't express it in OSCAL, I want to do this in OSCAL, so I'm going to spend the time to take what PCI is and express it in OSCAL.
Yeah.
So we have these generic, hasn't been defined here. What does this authoring process look like? What would that look like? And it's generic here because I think like, what does the authoring process look like could be different based on what tools they want to use, so on and so forth. But like, how it ends up looking later, I think this is like an area where we can start to define some of those norms. And then again, if we continue with STIG type of example, DISA and a software vendor or an open source project collaborate to produce a component, OSCAL terms component definition, but a SCAP profile. If we're, I actually would like to see STIGs and SCAP and that type of stuff be transformed into this type of approach. I know I feel like that's probably very ambitious, and it will take a long time for, the wheels of government to get there. But also, I think, it is a doable goal. It's just going to take persistence, diligence, patience to kind of get there. So, sometimes a check remediation work, trying to get that evidence, it's possible to achieve that through automation. Sometimes it's not.
Mm-hmm.
So kind of see the split here. And, even when it is automatable, let's say maybe only part of it is automatable. So the software project produces some automation for how to collect this and everything. It may not be completely doable through automation. So now there's a shared responsibility that has to be expressed in OSCAL for the system owners to be responsible for the remainder of that check.
Yeah, totally.
And, so we've, again, got some generic processes here that I think it's important for them to be generic, but we have these areas where I think we can, with the documents here, this group could define some norms. And if we come over here, continuing with Air Force project, they need to figure out now, for the things that I have that I need to get an ATO for, I need to produce SSP. So how am I gonna, pull all those things together? Baselines, component definitions, checks.
Mhm.
I'm going to have to follow an authoring process as well to get my SSP together. These types of things. So eventually you come over and I from the left to the right, our confidence in, like, we think this works as shown here decreases. So this is the area that we have like the least confidence, and there's the most imagination and the least amount of proof. We've proven it out type of thing. So let's see. So you have people collecting evidence, pulling it all together through assessment plans and assessment results. And I don't know if GRC tool is being used, or you're just storing this stuff in, these documents and Git, or whatever the case may be. But, at a high level, you're doing these activities, and there are, like what type of assessment plans, could be examples down here, and how do they get pulled together into, we should probably have this as a document under the assessment results, because you don't see a assessment results document here, but I think that's important. So need to get that corrected in here. But then another area is, like, there is in OSCAL, the word, I think there's the word a field for attestation, but it's not exactly the same thing as like other areas in, like, say, SBOMs. So not to, I want to avoid the confusion between what is a component definition in OSCAL and what is a component definition in SBOM. Like, there is some thing that that is elsewhere in the diagram that helps to try and explain and tease those apart and show that they are not the same. But to take from that other area the technologies they have some very interesting approaches for attestation that we think maybe would be a good fit here for when I grab that evidence and everything and pull it all together. Like, we can sign that, and it's protected, and it's trusted after it's been signed, that it hasn't, not being tampered with, and that isn't addressed in OSCAL right now. I don't know if that should be addressed in OSCAL. OSCAL doesn't have to do all things, so maybe there, if we had a transparency ledger, we made that term up to try and be agnostic. This could be RECOR, or maybe some of these other things up here. I don't know, but I do think we need maybe to use in toto to do an attestation. I don't know. Again, this is hypothetical over here. And finally, you're going to have POAMs. So, that gets sent back over here, and then we get to rinse, lather, repeat, if you will.
Yeah, very cool.
So some of, there's room down here for, okay, we could have some in-depth concrete examples if those are helpful, because in trying to, for people that aren't familiar with this or haven't experienced it yet, in that ask, going to another project in CNCF to bring them over, we might need a concrete example of a one of those processes to say like, hey, it might look like this for you. It doesn't have to look like this for you, but it might look like this for you. Again, as possibly as a tool to get people on the same page, even if the diagram that we first presented them is not at all what it ends up being done because everybody hated it. But, sometimes I have found in my career that if you do something obviously wrong, it can spur people to be like, no, that's wrong. This needs to be, do it this. And I'm like, then you have the engagement and the involvement that you wanted to begin with. So I'm not afraid of doing something like that. So this can actually be the same thing. So what does this spark joy or rage?
No, I for me personally, and I'm going to be like, I don't know. I'd like to think that I offer a unique stance on things or maybe perspective, but I don't think that I'm alone in my perspectives of what I like to see here is that a lot of this aligns to general like thought leadership with OSCAL, right? Which I think is great. And what I really want to key into is like for this engagement, for this working group initiative, is figuring out like how can we do things in such a way where the OSCAL is the norms for the OSCAL, that the standards and things that we want to put in place accomplishes the job without any one specific tool or any one specific, flavor of it, and enables other people to come to the table. And so like for me, the thing that I've really liked about OSCAL is like, they're like, here's the data format, go build your own tools to like do something for the better. Right. And so I think that I probably have some of my own flavors of opinionation on how you get from the flow of like control all the way to assessment. But I think what will be good is to maybe outline, what do we think the bare skeleton looks like for the OSCAL for a given project, and then allowing for either a layer of abstraction or B, their own flavors of opinionation to like add automation on top. It's like, yes, OSCAL is great, but at the end of the day, it does nothing. It should go from authorship and it should flow through to the end where it's visualized for some persona to see, probably in a human readable format, not strictly machine readable. But all the fun, in my opinion, is in between. Right. And so I like transparently spend every day, all day, writing like code for Lula to do the assessment piece, and like, how do we do automation? And so it's been really enlightening to take some stances and then see, to be honest, like things get, I think, generally accepted as a good practice. Like, how do you use OSCAL and then automate the things you can automate and focus on just kind of enhancing the workflow for the things you can't?
Yes. Yeah. I think I believe we're on the same page. So if we establish these norms, if we establish that bare bones thing, we publish that, then I think it lowers the barrier to entry as well for projects, software in general, like that needs to be hardened and adhere to a variety of different compliance frameworks to be able to engage in that, but also the tooling around all of this. I believe it then makes it easier for, like, if OPA wants to play in this arena, I think right now it's too big of a blank canvas, and this sets them up for, oh, I play here, I do this, and this is the things that yes, all right, now I can charge on and do this.
Yeah.
So, all right. I started off with, I think this would be useful as a tool to drive us to a place where we can be articulate enough with approaching another open source project in CNCF to collaborate with us on this. Do you think this could be a tool for us to achieve that level of articulation, or do you think this is cool for other reasons but not necessarily to achieve that?
I think we're on the right path. I think that what we need to maybe do is I need to go look back at like the Google Doc we have for the initiative, and then try to overlay what's there with kind of, to be honest, like what's here with these layers, and just say like what do we expect to happen at these layers, but then two, like what does a good proof of concept look like? And it could be like, okay, well, at the control layer, like, what are we targeting? And there's so much to target. And that I think that like also based on like the initiatives that are kind of in flow already, like we could pick something that could be like best practices, right? Find a security best practices, the supply chain security white paper. John Zola, who I believe was on this call before, and in our channel, right? He like kind of owns that repository for translating that white paper into OSCAL controls catalog. So like maybe we look at that and maybe we say like, okay, well, this is in our first proof of concept cycle, we use this as our catalog. Okay, sweet. Now move to the implementation layer. What would it mean for somebody to implement this? Is it a project? Is it an organization? Like who ultimately consumes that and builds a component definition? And I think if we make our way around, like I guess through the life cycle, that might better, provide some more clarity in who we target. And I don't think it has to be one life cycle. I think it could be like, here's an 853. Okay, well, who would you target 853 with? And we could list out those projects. Okay, well, who would consume those projects? List out that for the assessment layer, and maybe come to a couple different workflows. And I don't know. That's where my mind goes first, because it helps us clarify like why are we doing this? What are we doing it against? And then who do we want to get involved?
I like it. Okay. So what can we do about that? That was kind of a good plan. I like it. So maybe we document that and then share that back asynchronously over Slack with the group. This is what you and I came to, and we assign all the work to them. And then I'm most interested in like I think John will. This gives everybody like something to sink their teeth into, I think, at this point. So I think John would probably chip in, with effort on this. That's my guess anyway. So I think it might be the three of us and maybe Jen, but I think she has her bucket full at the moment. So might just be the three of us taking actions for the next month. So let's see. Oh, you're already writing it down.
Yeah, I started trying to capture some of the notes.
The meeting there's a transcription being taken, so I can go back through as well and afterwards and be like, oh, there was the section, and double check. Let's see.
I would. I'm very biased, and we don't have to do this today. I would really love your feedback on Lula at some point.
Yeah.
And I can do I can do a demo or
Yeah.
any options. But I think that I'd love to see what you think with where we are today, and see if yeah, I don't really want to necessarily like, it doesn't need to be included in this initiative. I'm here for the initiative, not for the sake of the project that I maintain, but
Mhm.
I'm going to have a hard time keeping the two separate, because like all of this is my day job too.
Yeah.
uh,
By the way, I just made you editor in here.
Wonderful.
I it was also suggested to me that that we might some people might need a glossary if they were looking at this. So
Oh, very cool.
so let me. What access? You have commenter access, is that right?
Great question.
On the
Yeah.
glossary, yeah. Okay.
Yep.
I will work to get you. How do I get?
Yeah, no, this is really, really exciting though, because I think a lot of like the time, like my team has spent just trying to like dissect this and get feedback from I don't know, various entities for mainly doing the assessment piece has always been good, but then we started working backwards into like generic OSCAL, and so we just released like the ability to like generate component definitions. Takes context, right? You can't just say generate and it does it. You need to feed it stuff. But it's been pretty exciting to see like how that could overlay really well into a lot of these workflows.
Jen, you did a OSCAL mini workshop, right?
Yes, I've done a few of them now.
Yeah, Jen attended, and she really liked Lula's. Yeah, so
Very cool.
yeah. Yeah, I know we're Trestle. We're on the Trestle bandwagon. In fact, we just got accepted to and that's a lot of work. Oh my gosh, it's a lot of work right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's super exciting though.
Yeah. Oof. So I really like, one of my efforts with objectives with this is I want there to be a vibrant ecosystem. I can hear my partner right now being like, don't use that word. I hate that word, because she's also in tech stuff. She overused word. But I do want to see like a why, like, because users should be able to use multiple of these tools and them be successful. So yeah.
No, I think it'd be super like good too, just to bounce ideas around on growing the ecosystem. And so like one of our initial pain points was like, how do you add automation to a component definition? And it's honestly pretty difficult. Obviously we've had talks with NIST, and Anka has had talks with the NIST team and for like proposal ideas and things that we could change. But like, how do you use what exists now in order to start making progress now? And I think that's what would really benefit from this effort, is kind of just acknowledging that there is things you could do with automation. And here's some ideas for like, where do you put the data and how do you operate on it?
Yeah, I agree. If I remember right from talking to Jen and Lula, you guys use a lot of links to, what is it? Metadata? Is that right?
Yeah. So we'll, the easiest way is if you have a link and we use like a Lua identifier on the link href to point to an external file that just contains a Lua like custom resource. And it all runs just from the CLI, but yeah, we link external files, and then when you want to ultimately like upload that to a GRC system, you can't just leave those links
right
as they are, because a lot of tooling won't know what to do with them. And so we have this idea of composing, and so we will actually like take the contents of those files and put them in the back matter.
Yeah, that's the word I was looking for.
It's a little kludgy, if I'm being totally honest, but it does, given the size of our validations, like our proof of evidence, like they're all relatively small. It fits in there and it's worked thus far. So
yeah, in the research that I had done myself on like how, and like trying to validate it by, honestly, I would having conversations with Google Gemini on this, and like, okay, so how do you think it? And like the options are very limited, and I think it's particularly if you want this to be other tools to be able to use this. It's not just like a only Trestle, like that's not a solution. So the only things that I could find were back matter, or you fork NIST. I mean, not fork NIST. You fork OSCAL, and you do it the way you extend this, not extend it. You fork it and you make the standard the way it will accommodate what you're after.
Yeah.
But then you're again, back to it. Other tools aren't going to know. Yeah. So. So yeah, I couldn't find anything better. I think like I don't know if it falls in scope here or not. I think that remains to be seen. Maybe it's a follow-on thing, but I really think there needs to be a more robust way in OSCAL to say, I'm going to do this extra thing over here, and it's not just like a name value thing. It needs to be a complex support, a complex structure.
Yeah.
And then, if we're, regardless of whether or not you want to call it a plugin or whatever the word is, whatever that noun is, there needs to be ways for those things to be created, easily consumable by users and tooling and whatnot, and then a graduation path from something like that into the OSCAL standard as a whole.
Yeah. Agreed.
I think without that, I think it's really hard for the community to be able to say with confidence, it should be this way. If we have that ability to extend, put it through its paces, see if it gets adopted by many, get that feedback from the community, and it gets to a point where like, no, this is like everybody's like we're all kind of dependent on this now. Like then it can be moved up, and these extensions don't have to be tool specific. They can be, if you want this extra functionality, regardless of which tool, and a variety of tools support that functionality, and
yeah, I agree.
So I don't know if that falls in scope here or not, but I think we'll figure it out as we go when we're trying to make the norms, and we're just like, okay, so this is the end objective, like, oh shoot, we have to have this, and that's not part of OSCAL, and like, how are we going to do, so. Yeah.
I mean, nonetheless, like one calling it out, right, as part of like a constraint, could hopefully help like try to codify what the constraint is in a way that NIST can maybe dissect it further, as opposed to any one specific. Like if I go to NIST and I'm like, hey, I'd really love to do this with Lula. well, that's great, but that's only one flavor of solving the problem.
Mhm.
Whereas when you identify the constraint and abstract it from a specific tool,
Yeah.
probably goes a lot further.
Mhm. And I want the ability to like do that extension without them having to be like, well, it's going to take all the, not sure about it, timing, whatever like that. It's like, yes, I hear you, but our ability to innovate is kind of crippled by, and I think we need that ability as a community. If we're going to have a community, like I think we should have, then we need that ability to innovate.
Agreed.
Yeah. So let's see. You mentioned feedback on Lua, and I think you were heading towards, were you thinking in the context of this group doing a demo, using it as an example to be like, these are patterns that we have noticed. I think you mentioned that. And then maybe share those patterns with us to go, and, again, to either, as a tool for discussion to either be like, yeah, that looks great. Yeah, we should, or, oh, that's disgusting.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, I think that'd be great. I'd be more than willing to, and really just trying to frame it in such a way that it's like, here are patterns of things that like we hamstrung part of it just so that we could get the job done and it doesn't look great, or like these are patterns that we'd like to explore further because they align. And then how do we then separate and abstract like tool specific from the underlying thing that I think we want to do here, which is set up really any tool to be interoperable with, one, OSCAL, but then two, like expectations of how to use it more efficiently.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. I think that's great. You want to do that in 2 weeks?
Let's do it.
All right. Sweet.
Cool. I'll add that as an action item at the bottom there. And then, yeah, I think that could set the stage, and I'll add a little bit more context to that action item to really just describe like what lens I want people who show up to the meeting to look at it through. Right. It's certainly not that this tool does the job. All right, we're done. But it's to look at what we're doing and how we're doing it and see if there's an overlay that we can apply.
Yeah, that's great. Okay. Do we have any hanging chads from this meeting we need to tidy up before we close out?
No, I think if we just go back through the Google Doc for the initiative vision, I think we could refine that and maybe break it down and just hit those points that we have annotated.
Okay. Sweet.
All right. Well, appreciate the time.
Yeah, absolutely. This is good. I kind of okay with it having been just the two of us.
Yep.
All right, man. Have a good day. I'll see you in 2 weeks.
See ya.
Bye.